So, emotions and fundraising. Well, the first thing to understand is that giving is all about emotion. We give in order to get more of a good feeling or to make a bad feeling go away. We do a bit of thinking as well, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But anyone that thinks that fundraising doesn't involve understanding and working with people's emotions is off to a complete non-start. It just won't happen. However, the idea that fundraisers can manipulate people's emotions is pretty much a falsehood. You see, if you're a donor, a person, a human being, you have emotions and you will act on those emotions. Whether a fundraiser contacts you or not, you will have those emotions that lead to feelings that give the compulsion to do things. All the time we are seeing things happen throughout our lives. In the very short term, we see things happening in the media, or we see things happening around us, and our emotional reaction to those things is that we need to give to help someone else, driven purely by our own emotional needs. We all have the emotional need to give, to help other people. The circumstances in which we most powerfully wish to help, or who we wish to help, will change between all of us, and is only really based on one thing, which is our life experience. Our emotions are very complicated things, but they can be simply summed up as behaving according to our life experience, and the more we have a similar life experience, or the bigger a life experience is, then the stronger our emotional behavior towards that. So the life of every individual, that drives what we are most predisposed to have an emotional reaction to and to give to. These emotions that we have are regularly activated throughout our life, not just by fundraisers. But when fundraisers communicate with someone, what they do critically is they help that person activate their emotions, and they give them the opportunity to do something about that emotion right now. Fundraisers, however, need to do it right. It's no good for people to activate an emotion then just leave somebody hanging there. That leaves people feeling very, very bad. In short, what the good fundraiser will do is understand the emotions that somebody already has. They will help that person act on that emotion, and if you like, you will help them feel closure on that emotional reaction that they've had. The opportunity to act on an emotion that somebody already has is what fundraising is. Think of it in a very simple terms. If every human being had the same life experience, we would all therefore have the same emotional needs, and we would all give to the same thing. However, we don't. The reason that cancer is such a big cause is that almost everybody in the United Kingdom has some kind of direct experience of cancer, so therefore we all have a strong emotional reaction to it. The real reason that so few people give to, say for example, the Haemophilia Society is that a much smaller number of people have direct experience of them, their loved one or a friend living with haemophilia, and therefore the number of people with an emotional reaction to a story about a person with haemophilia is smaller. Therefore the fundraiser has to be much better at their job in being able to speak to people who already have an emotional reaction to a story about haemophilia. Let me start then. What we are doing as fundraisers, if we do it well, is we are giving people to act on the opportunity to act on one of their very basic human needs. And that basic human need is the need to give. I've probably seen about, well, I don't know, 20 or 30 different models that psychologists, psychiatrists, evolutionary scientists, fundraisers, marketeers, and data analysts have come up with around the world for the different reasons that people give. The best approximation I can come up with is to group all of them together, analyse them, and then look at what has worked with really good fundraising programs around the world. And I'm now firmly of the opinion that never mind which detailed model you use, there are 4 major emotional needs that a human being has that will drive them to give, to help somebody else, to help an animal, or to help for the greater good of our planet. The first one is really simple. It's the need to help somebody else, a person or an animal. We often call this the friends and family motivation, and it is pure empathy. It's the physical reaction to seeing or hearing about somebody else in pain or in need or suffering, and we have a really deep, inbuilt, highly physical emotion that means that we feel their pain, we feel the situation that they are in, and we wish to give in order to alleviate their suffering and our feeling of pain at witnessing it. The second is human beings have a need to solve problems. But we're not really that keen on solving problems on our own because we're not very good at it. What human beings are really good at is getting together to solve big problems. We cooperate with each other. We call this the cooperation set of emotions. The need to get together with lots of other humans in the face of a common enemy. Say, for example, fundraising to end heart disease. Lots and lots of us need to do that in order to get together to solve a big problem. The cooperation motivation. Third, the ability to give makes us feel better about ourselves. If we are able to give to help someone else, we can enhance our feeling of self-worth, we can raise our self-esteem, we can increase our reputation within the society that we give. It's pretty worthless as a human being if you cannot help someone else. It's actually a really basic part of our own self-worth to be able to help other people, and the more we are capable of doing that, the better we feel about ourselves. And the fourth reason is really powerful over the very long term, is we have an emotional need to do things which add more meaning to our life. To perhaps sacrifice pleasures, to give up our time, and indeed to give up our money to make our life worthwhile. We call it the sacrifice motivation, but it really is about making my limited time on this planet more worthwhile, about leaving something behind me, about the world being slightly better when it leaves it than it was when I arrived on it. These 4 motivations need to be clearly understood. If a professional fundraiser goes to a donor or a prospective donor base and doesn't understand their emotions and then bombards that person with the wrong messages which meet the wrong needs for them, then they really are not a very good fundraiser. However, these 4 needs of family, cooperation, self-esteem and sacrifice are so powerful about it. If the fundraiser is very good at identifying the people with these needs and then delivers them appropriate messaging, they are actually doing something very, very special for these people. How does emotion and giving work? It's really complicated, so we've developed a very, very simple model. It's really how we live our lives. But in terms of giving, we've just reduced it down to the 3 stages of giving. There's 2 stages before someone will make a gift, and then there's 1 stage afterwards. The first stage is called the need emotion. As I've already explained, this is when we have an experience. We see something happening either through a fundraising communication or on the television or the radio or the newspaper or in real life around us, and seeing this situation activates an emotion inside us. We feel compelled to give. In the case of fundraising, compelled to make a donation, to give money. What then happens is we have a counteracting fear to these powerful emotional urges as human beings. And what we do is we stop and we have a little think. And the think is designed to overcome the fears. There aren't very many of them. Will I look stupid? Will the charity waste my money? Will something actually happen if I make this gift? And perhaps the biggest fear of all, particularly in the current circumstances, can I actually afford to make this gift? on top of perhaps all the other gifts I'm already making. The fear of running out of money is really powerful. Once someone has had the urge to give, they've overcome the fears by thinking it through, and then they give, then everything changes in a heartbeat, and they get what's called the reward emotion. They feel good about themselves, they feel good about what they've done. They may feel joy, they may feel just relief of anxiety, but the reward emotion is very, very powerful. The reward emotions, they match up with the four big groups. Remember the four big groups? I need to help someone, I need to solve a problem, I need to feel good about myself, and I need to give my life more meaning. The reward emotions match up with those four groups very precisely. So the reward emotion only comes if someone knows that they have helped somebody. The reward emotion comes if somebody knows that they and other people are making progress towards solving one of the world's big problems. The self-esteem reward is if you feel better about yourself, your ability to give, your status in society perhaps. But finally, the most powerful one is if the sacrifice of giving money feels worthwhile, it is not wasted, and it has given my life more meaning. That's the most powerful reward motivation of all. So let me get to the main point of this video. I will now talk about bad fundraising and good fundraising. Bad fundraising is when the charity, the NGO or the non-profit hammers out the need emotion over and over and over again. We need more, we need more, we need more, we need more. And as their desperate need for funds increases, they become more strident and they make the need emotion more powerful, it's more urgent, it's more devastating. When those bad fundraisers continue to do that, they forget two critically important things. One is they are not giving the donor the reward emotion, which is the good emotion after having given that makes everything worthwhile. And second, by going on asking more and more powerfully over and over and over and over again, you reach the upper limit of what somebody is able to give. And if you reach the point where somebody is being, their emotions are being powerfully activated, so they have the desire to give more, but they don't have the money to give more, then what you do in an instant is strip them of that self-esteem, that ability to meet their needs. And when you strip people of their self-esteem, in fact, you ask them so hard that they feel bad about their inability to give, two things happen. They either get depressed and give up and start giving altogether, or they get angry. And they're the two big changes that have got fundraising to where it is today. Not enough reward emotion, and in some cases just asking people too much, so that people feel bad about themselves and they either give up or they get angry. Both of them are quite understandable if you are constantly emotionally demanding to do something of somebody that they just can't do anymore. In good fundraising, we do two things. One is we put just as much effort into the reward and motivation, helping people know that they have helped somebody, that they and others are making progress in solving a problem, that their sense of worth and their ability to give is increased, not decreased, increased self-worth, and that they feel the sacrifice they are making is adding more meaning to their lives. We put as much effort into the fast, fantastic, and emotionally powerful feedback that someone gets after they've given as we do to the strident demands for cash beforehand. And second, and this is perhaps even more difficult, is we stop asking when someone is giving enough. How do you know when someone is giving enough? You can measure it, you can use data, or perhaps you can simply ask them. The most common response we get from depressed or sad donors when we speak to them about why they're not giving anymore or they're complaining is, I just wish I could give more, I just can't. That is the most horrible emotion of all. To have someone wishing they can give, but they're just not able to. And that is the emotion that fundraisers must avoid. Be expert at matching up people's emotional needs with the cause for which you represent, and then communicate the need very powerfully. Overcome the fears by reassuring people you're a trustworthy organisation and you will spend the money well, but put an equal amount of effort into the emotion that people really want, which is how they feel after they have given. If they're giving once, twice, monthly, or over an entire lifetime, that reward emotion, that feeling good after I have given. One of the best feelings you can ever give somebody is to say to them, well done, you have given enough. Suffice to say, emotions are very, very simple, but they're not easy to work with. We're meeting very simple human needs, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of study to understand that people already have these emotions, and that as we activate them in people in order that they can meet their own basic need to give, that we're working in a very sensitive area, and to let amateurs do it is criminal. The very first time somebody gives, it's essential to talk about the need. Without the need emotion, there is no reward emotion. So for public campaigns in order to recruit new donors, yes, the need must be very well targeted and must be very powerfully communicated. But with every communication from the first thank you letter, for as long as a donor or supporter stays with an organisation, it looks to us that the most important messages and the most important actions you can take are the reward emotion. So what someone has achieved, how they have met their needs through their gift, and secondly is how well they have been treated. That must be the major source of priority for the rest of a donor's life. And I'll say it again, asking people for more than they have is emotionally destroying, and it is the worst way you can possibly treat a good person. That means talking about the donor's successes every bit as much as your financial needs over the short, medium and long term is very, very simple. And the way you do this is you start every communication with the question, why? If you hammer out what we need money for or how you can give it to us, you'll make people feel anxious. If you always, always, always ask the question, why, then you will have the trigger for the need emotion and the reward emotion, which means that you can make your communication cycle absolutely brilliant. Why do we need more money? Why will the donor want to support us? Answer the two of those very, very powerfully and understand the emotions that drive them both, and where they overlap. That's the magic for good fundraising. Constantly hammering on about the need and forgetting what the needs of a donor are, the emotional needs of a donor, that is the recipe for bad fundraising. The simplest statement I'll come up with is this very, very final one. Fundraising is meeting a basic emotional need, the need to give. People already have these emotions, and of course they are awakened, they are activated when a fundraiser communicates with somebody. Fundraising is the emotions business, and it needs to be done well. Communicating in an emotional manner well involves understanding when someone has given enough, but above and beyond that, it involves powerful communication in the emotional space with integrity. Brilliant fundraising equals emotion plus integrity. The only way you can communicate in the emotional space with integrity is to tell the truth, and the skill of the fundraising communicator is to tell the truth well. If you train, study and practice the truth well told, and you understand that people can only give so much, then you'll be a brilliant fundraiser. Thanks for listening.